Live spirit and coffee. Yum yum. Got my coffee here. Ah, so good. Okay, let's get started. So, we're gonna continue on with the four agreements. We are on the next chapter of the book, which is the third agreement. We've gone over the first two. Be impeccable with your word and don't take anything personal. And being able to live in the personal hell with harmony. Good morning, Mara. Housing, sorry, housing me 520. Okay. Good morning. So we learn how to get out of our personal hell, or to actually be the peace and the calm in the storm within the personal hell that's happening around us, without us actually having to take it personal, or to absorb the poison that we may have received from the outside world. And basically saying, I don't accept the poison. I know it's there, but now I'm not going to take it personal because I know that it's just part of the story. Okay, good. So let's go on to the third agreement. Don't make assumptions. Now, this is hard. Before we even get into the chapter, I can talk about it. We always make assumptions. I always make assumptions, okay? And sometimes the assumptions come from not having clear communication between two individuals. When we don't have effective communication, we make assumptions. Now, here's the deal. Never make assumptions. Good morning, Alizagar. Alizagar. Oh, thank you for your engagement. I don't know what that means. I think I got a medal. I got a gold medal. I don't know what that means. Oh, I got another medal. Yay, thank you. I don't know what that means, but that's nice to have medals. Thank you, guys. That's kind of cool. I've never seen that before in the Podbean. That's cool. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. It's pretty cool. I'll give you guys the Medal of Chivalry and Honor. Okay. Okay, so when we don't make assumptions, now we make assumptions when communication breaks down. Here's the deal with people, with individuals. I highly encourage that you communicate as effectively as possible. Why? Because it's hard on the other end, it's hard on the receiving end when we're not hearing communication. I am a person that likes to communicate. Now, some people don't. Now, I'm not saying that you have to always be communicating every step that you do. But if you get into a altercation, or you have some kind of confrontation, or there's something going on in your life, right? An argument, something, that you at least communicate the fact that you need time to process what it is you're going through. Now, why? It's important because, good morning, Alicia, because of the assumptions, right, that people make. With the assumptions that we have, because what'll happen is on the other end is people are making up assumptions. Why? Because we don't know. We're missing some type of information. That is why people make assumptions, because they're missing something. Now, if you don't get the information that you want from somebody, simply ask. Rather than make assumptions, ask. Now, this is important because I've talked about effective communication, and asking for feedback sometimes is not easy for people. But the feedback, and sometimes people may not give you feedback, but remember this: no communication is telling you something. If somebody's not responding to you, that's saying something. No response is a response. Good morning, Parker. Good morning, Salim. Don't make assumptions, okay? The third agreement is don't make assumptions. We have the tendency to make assumptions about everything. The problem with making assumptions is that we believe they are true. we could swear they are real. We make assumptions about what others are doing or thinking. We take it personally. Then we blame them and react by sending emotional poison with our words. That is why, whenever we make assumptions, we're asking for problems. We make assumptions, we misunderstand, we take it personally, we end up creating a whole big drama for nothing. Okay. Now, this happens quite often, right? We'll make something bigger than it needs to be. We'll over traumatize, over dramatize. I don't know if that's a word, but we'll over dramatize um, something that's tiny by making assumptions. Now, we make assumptions because we're not communicating, either because the other person on the other end is not communicating back to us, or we're too afraid to ask or to engage in the conversation to really know what the feedback is. Some people don't want to know. So they'll just act as if they'll just make assumptions and that's better for them. It keeps them safe from really truly getting feedback for why another person is treating them the way they're treating them. So it could be several things, but a lot of it is actually all of it is a breakdown in communication with two individuals. That's what it is. And I'm taking a drink of my coffee, so cheers. I hope you guys have your coffee with you. Okay, so how do we effectively communicate? Ask for feedback. If you're, let's say, for instance, someone looks at you, a friend of yours looks at you a certain way when you say something, right? And so you're curious about that look and you're like, well, that wasn't, I didn't get a very comfortable look. That just seemed like it was, they were judging me. Well, now you're assuming that they're judging you rather than saying, asking them, what was that look for? Why, they could be thinking about something else. They could be going through their own stuff. Yes, cheers with coffee. Cheers to you with your coffee. Salud. And another sip. Now, when we do that, when we start to make the assumptions, we start to make up stories that aren't true, and then we make them bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And a lot of people, thank you. I don't know. I'm getting all these Podbean engagements, points, love. Thank you for the points. I appreciate that. Very, very cool. Love back to you. Hearts back to you. I don't know how to do that. I'm not an expert at Podbean. I just get on here and talk. um, but I do appreciate the hearts that I received some medals and some hearts on Podbean. Um, the assumptions. So asking and communicating, we make something tiny, we make it into something really big. Instead of saying, what's going on now. A lot of the times other people have other things going on in their head. Maybe they yelled at you because that morning they dropped coffee all over their blouse that was white and they had to take it off and wash it, and they were running late, and now because of that they're angry at themselves and really they take it out on you, and now you're assuming that there's all this stuff that comes up if they lash out at you because you are whatever it is going through, and now you're assuming that that they're jerks, that they're this, that they're that, and you make up all these stories to justify why you feel that way. That's what we do. We try to justify why we think this person is a jerk, or we justify why they behave that way towards us, or we're starting to justify why they're not communicating with us. This happens with relationship quite a bit. Like I can tell you, people, and I think it's all of, maybe not all of humanity, but I will say, specifically in the US, because it's where I live, that relationships are very complex and people don't really understand. And making assumptions is a huge thing. Why? Because people will do what we call ghost other people. In other words, they'll start talking to them and all of a sudden they stop. They just disappear. And you're like, well, what happened? And so we go to our friends, or we go to other individuals for advice. Well, do you think he liked me? Do you think this? Da, 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 da. Oh no, I think it was this, that, the other. And we make up all of these things. We're making assumptions of why this individual just decided to leave our life. Now, here's the deal. If the assumptions that you're making, and I don't know if the book says this because I don't 100% remember, if the assumptions you're making is going to serve you, like in other words, if you're making an assumption that someone left your life because they don't love themselves, um, and it's helping you get past your hangups on the person and you're like, now I can move on, that's okay. That's a story. That's you shifting the story to serve you so that you can actually move on with your life because maybe you want to find somebody in your life. Maybe you want to be with somebody in your life. Okay. This is just an example. I'm using relationships as an example. Why? Because I think that that's the biggest one we make assumptions about, at least from my the people that I'm around. That's a lot of it is what happened. I don't understand what happened. And then we just make up all these stories of why we think this happened. Now, it can be it can bring us into the drama when we do it from a place when there's a conflict that happens rather than someone just leaving your life that you've just met or relationships. Like, for instance, when we fight with our siblings or our parents or our loved ones or our friends or coworkers or I don't know, just people in general. We start to assume and say things. Now, it's okay, but not okay. And by that, I mean, it's okay if it helps you move past a situation as long as it's not doing harm. Like, I had to make up stories about people in my life so that I could move past it. It was still an assumption. Why? Because I was never able to get or communicate with that particular person to truly understand their side of the story or what was going on with them. Okay. All the sadness and the drama you have lived in your life was rooted in making assumptions and taking things personally. Take a moment to consider the truth of this statement. So let me read it again. All the sadness and drama you have lived in your life was rooted in making assumptions and taking things personally. Take a moment to consider the truth of this statement. The whole war of control between humans is about making assumptions and making and taking things personally. Our whole dream of hell is based on that. And that is true. When we start to take things personally, if we could drop into the neutral, not easy for everybody. Why? Because thank you, Phil, for the love. Thank you, Ellie, the Leo. I don't know. That's a lot of words there. For the love, for the points. Points. I got love points on this podcast. That's cool. Um, yeah, that we make the assumptions, we create our own personal hell in it. If we stay in the neutral, which is not so easy to do, we actually dissolve all of it. Now, it's hard because there's some crazy stuff going on in the world. It's hard to just say, hey, that's a neutral event. Hey, that doesn't mean anything. Hey, I'm not going to assume anything about that because it's not things that we particularly agree with. Because I'm not saying I agree with certain things. I stand on morals and principles and values and all that stuff. And I can tell you, good morning, Antonio. I was telling you guys, the reality of it is like the sex trafficking issues that we have. For me, that is a huge issue. To sit back and take neutral position on that is not easy. It's not easy. There's other things in life that are not easy to be neutral in, like murder and all these bigger things, right? Where we're saying, wow, that's traumatic. That's terrible. How can someone be neutral in that event and not take it personal? Now, when we step back and we see it for what it is, because we would say, yeah, you know what? It's happening regardless. It's happening regardless if I'm making assumptions about it or not. It's happening. I cannot stop it. I can do my part, but I can't make it stop. What can I do? I can love and I can come back to loving the people that are engaged in this. Good morning, Patrick. I haven't seen you in a while. How have you been? That we forgive those that are actually involved in it because we don't understand the intricacies of that world if we're not in it. We don't understand what has happened for people to get where they are in that particular society. Why is somebody's mentality thinking it's okay? There's some sickness there that when we stand back in neutrality and we say, oh, I forgive them for they know not what they do because they are creating their own personal hell. And we have the opportunity to step back and say, I'm not going to do that. I don't need to engage in that. I can forgive it and I can be neutral about it. But that's not easy. And I get that. Good morning, Melon. Melon? Good morning, YIWZ. Good morning, Phil. Princess Skin. Ulrich. Okay, so we create a lot of the emotional poisons just by making assumptions and taking it personally because usually we start gossiping about our assumptions. Remember, gossiping is a way to communicate to each other the dream of hell and transfer poison to one another because we are afraid to ask for clarification. See, I was telling you that earlier. We're afraid to get clarity on things. We make assumptions. We believe we're right about the assumptions, then we defend our assumptions and try to make someone else wrong. It's always better to ask questions than to make assumptions because assumptions set us up for suffering. Now, that's what I was talking about earlier, asking questions. And see, I can have foresight in this particular agreement because I understand how it works. When we're making assumptions, we don't have clarity. It's a communication breakdown. That's really the base of it. That's the root of us making assumptions. And when we do that, of course, we start to tell people our story. Oh, they looked at me weird, or they treated me like this. I think they're just jerks. This and this and this, whatever it is. And then we gossip about the people, and then we spew that poison into the minds of the other people about this particular person, and it spreads the poison rather than saying, okay, let me pull this back and let me look at this here. Why would I spew poison into the minds of people about this other person? Why not go directly to that person and communicate clearly what's coming up for me? That takes personal responsibility. That takes you being honest with yourself. That is the hard part because people don't want to be honest with themselves, especially if it's like jealousy, envy, or if they're being a doormat, they're afraid to like speak up and speak their truth. So there's a bunch of different reasons why we don't engage it. Also, maybe we're afraid that we're not going to look good, or we have to admit that maybe we were wrong and we have to kind of humble ourselves in the face of this. Different things we're going to show up, but when we engage in the communication and ask those powerful questions, now we're able to get clarity. And when we have clarity, we don't need to make assumptions. It's coming out of the horse's mouth, right? So we can go and we can say, look, here's what's coming up for me. Good morning, Amy Liz 20. Good morning, Karen. Here's what comes up. This is what's going on with me. Why did you? So if it was a friend that looked at you crazy, whatever, when you were saying something, you said, I have a question. I noticed that when I said this, you gave some kind of a weird face. Was something coming up for you? Is there anything that you want to share with me? And maybe they'd be like, oh, no, I'm sorry, I probably wasn't even paying attention to, I have this going on. And you're like, oh. But now imagine we don't ask that friend that and we just go on and we go talk to our other friend and we're like, yeah, she looked at me rude and she's always doing rude faces and she's this and she's that. And then before you know it, there's poison starting to happen without you going to the source. Or you could go to her and she could say, yeah, I don't agree with what you were saying, blah, blah, whatever. And now you have an opportunity to say, okay, well, maybe you don't agree with what I'm saying, but is da 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 whatever. And then you're able to communicate and you're able to open up that line of communication and conversation to get clarity and hopefully come to a consensus, right? Good morning, Grace. Good morning, Casey. Good morning, Shirley. Where you come to a consensus. Good morning, Fool. And in that consensus, now you have peace and harmony. And you've come to what? A place of balance and stability, harmony and peace. That can't happen without the communication. We are so afraid to communicate, especially when we feel like things are not going in our direction, or when we have some kind of a feeling, or we're not being honest with ourselves about how we're feeling in a situation. It's easier just to say, well, I'm going to make assumptions and go talk about this person. You're just creating your own hell. You're digging yourself a hole deeper into what? You're digging yourself a hole deeper into your own personal hell. We don't want to do that. Nobody, good morning, Sally, wants to live in their own personal hell. Who does? I mean, raise your hand if you do. If you do, okay, awesome. Go ahead, do that. If that's what you choose. But I highly doubt it. I don't think people are like, yes, I want to live in my own personal hell and my own suffering. That's like stewing in the toilet bowl with all of the ugh in there, right? Or a sewer. You don't want to, who wants to just sit in the sewer? That's what basically we're doing when we do this to ourselves. We're actually allowing ourselves to be sitting in a cesspool. Sorry, that's probably not a great visual for the morning. I do apologize. I'm just trying to get you guys to understand that we create our own personal hell. We sit in our own personal hell. We don't move out of it. And the way to move out of that is to just acknowledge and be honest with yourself. And I see this, all the time with people. Well, she's that way, or he's this way, or they're that way, or he's a jerk, or she's that. And I'm like, how do you know? Well, I don't know. She gives me dirty looks. She just ignores me. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. So ask, get clarity. Or don't. Thank you for the hearts. I wonder is that just a new thing on Podbean where I never used to see these little hearts coming up on the side. I think they start doing that. But thank you. Thank you for these Podbeans. I got like a little medal or something. I've never seen those before, so it's kind of cool. Love back to you guys. I can't give back hearts. Or I'd give you guys a bunch of hearts back. So, okay, so let's continue on. Never make assumptions. Clear communication is the way to get past that. That's us being able to step into our authentic self, be vulnerable, and ask questions that will ignite a conversation to get clarity around a situation. We're here to seek clarity. The clearer that you become, okay, the clearer that we become in our lives, the clearer that we become in our communications, the easier life becomes. To recreate, I told you guys this before, I recreated my life. How did I recreate my life? By getting clearer about what it is. Good morning, Betty. I'm glad you're on here. By getting clear, right? Finding the clarity around what it is I want to create, getting clear in my communications, being able to articulate and communicate who I am and what's coming up for me in any situation. That takes courage, that takes vulnerability, that takes patience, understanding, self-awareness. So much comes into that to be clear enough to communicate. When we're clear with who we are, when we're clear with ourselves, then we have the opportunity to engage those harder situations and not take it personally and ask for feedback. That takes us knowing who we are, standing firm in who we are. Not easy, but worth it. Why? Because the clearer that we get, I'm going to say it again, the clearer that you get with you, the clearer that you know yourself, the more that you know who you are, the clearer that you become in your communication and communicating what is coming up in the physical body for you, the words to describe the perception that you have on any situation. It allows you to create in the world at a faster pace. See, these books, okay, will tell you conceptually what's going on. That you can read all these self-help books, write your goals down, do this, do that. Not saying they're bad. They're actually really good, but they're not going to facilitate the authentic you. You have to facilitate the authentic you. You get to remember who you are. You get to understand yourself. You get to be honest with yourself. I can't do that for you. Neither can a book, and neither can any guru or anybody on the planet. Nobody is living in your body. You are living in your body. The clearer that you get with how you respond to the situations in your life and you're honest with yourself, the easier life becomes. You start to walk in harmony, and as hell is happening around you and suffering's happening around you, you're able to be the calm in the storm. You become the eye of the storm. Everything around you's in chaos, and you are peacefully at the center of yourself. There is no other way. No other way. Good morning, Dilson. Good morning, Guprit. Reggie, good morning. We have some trolls showing up. We have the trolls on Facebook show up. I like when they show up because we know that we're spreading love to the darkest of the dark. But we only have one. Typically, it's about 1 billion will show up all at once. That's the only time my stuff goes viral, when it gets to the troll. Oh, funny. So don't make assumptions. Okay? Good morning. Okay, so we're going to continue on with don't make assumptions. I'm here to tell you today, get clear with yourself, get clear with who you are, start to understand who you are. And as you begin to understand who you are, as you start to move forward and get clearer, and you start to be able to communicate what is happening internally, you will stop making assumptions and you will start to live your best life. Not easy process though. It takes you to do it. It takes you. So I always say to my viewers and my listeners, thank you for showing up for you. You're not showing up for me. You think you're showing up for me, but you're not. You're showing up for you. You're showing up because you know you matter. You're showing up because you're trying to understand or looking for a way out of the suffering. I mean, that's what we're all looking for. That's why we come to these things. That's why I come to these things. That's why I read the books that I do, for the same thing. What is it going to take for me to drop into neutral, not make assumptions, not take things personally, and drop into the harmony of my life? That takes practice, doesn't just happen. So I'm here to support you with how do you develop those practices? How do you come up with the practices that are going to serve you, that are going to help you? Okay? Okay, good. Okay, so tomorrow is Saturday, so I won't be on, but do want you to know that I'm going to be putting my link to. I am an affiliate of Life Boost Coffee, and if you guys are interested in ordering any of the beans to try them out, they're really amazing. I love them. I'm going to start using them. Very low in acidity, very good for you, very healthy looking beans, a lot different from what you would just purchase in the store. So I highly encourage that you guys go and at least order I don't know, a bag and try it out and see if you like it. Um, and just to see, um, that's the coffee I'm going to start drinking and ordering online. So you have, I'll put up the link on the Facebook page. For those of you on Podbean, if you want to follow me or go to Facebook and like the page as well as Instagram, I do have that information. So Facebook Live is Spirit and Coffee Talk. At Spirit and Coffee Talk is Facebook Live. Instagram is Spirit and Coffee One. If you want to follow on Instagram, Spirit and Coffee One, I will put the information on the website so you guys can click and then just order coffee, because now we're getting into the coffee part of it, like spirit and coffee, right? So that we can all have our beautiful, good morning, Rachel. So we can all have our beautiful coffee together in the morning, and healthy coffee. Because you know me, I'm a health freak, health nut. And I'm switching over to this because it's actually helped me. And it's not as acidic, which is nice. I like to have this coffee because it's not acidic. More things to come with Spirit and Coffee. The website is going to be coming up soon. That way, everything's integrated into one space. And you guys are welcome to go to the website when it's up and running, which I'm going to be excited about soon. So, just working. I continue to work. I continue to do the work, expanding Spirit and Coffee. Also, looking into coffee mugs and to t shirts. I do want to give some giveaways. So, for my listeners that are on here, especially those on Podbean, because I don't see you live. Just being able to participate in being able to actually what get yourself, I don't know, a shirt or a coffee mug. That I would like to do a giveaway for prizes based on maybe some kind of engagement from you guys, because I do want to hear from you guys. I actually love you guys and I want you guys to be a part of it. You guys are a part of it, but I mean in another way. I want you guys to be engaged in it, right? So there you go. So, and thank you for all the hearts, love. I that's really cool. I've never seen that before on my Podbean. So I've gotten hearts and stuff and medals. I don't know what that means, but I say it's all God's, right? We're giving these hearts to God because all this is God. So God, you've gotten hearts and medals. Okay, so there you go. Have a fantastic, funky, fun, freaky, fabulous, phenomenal, uh funky. I think I already said that. Friday ever. And I will be seeing you guys on Monday. Have a good day. Bye bye.